You don't wanna never count yourself out, make it a great one. Just be sure to leave out the doubt, time to wake up.
Hi, I'm Tash, and today we're talking about how to get past some of the obstacles, the things that are holding us back, with a mindset that I think is really helpful. And so in front of you, I drew a scale, and I want to kind of give you two sides of this scale to help you get maybe unstuck in your business, maybe help you get past some of these obstacles that are holding you back. Now, when I say that, that's pretty broad. So maybe fill it in with some examples. Maybe you thought that you were going to hit this revenue this year, but yet you're not. You're looking at where you might project yourself at the end of the year and you're like, man, we're not going to hit the revenue I thought. Maybe you had some big goals, some big milestones on this year's agenda. And you look at it and you're like, listen, we're halfway through the year and we haven't even made a dent in this. Or possibly you bought that software or you bought that new AI agent and you're really looking at it and saying, we've had this for months now and we haven't even touched it. I'm going to give you some framework to help you get past some of these things that hold us back in our businesses. And the main reason why I think this is really important is because we need to learn that if we don't assess it and understand what's holding us back, we won't get the traction that we really need. So I'm going to give you these two sides on this scale that are really important to recognize. The first side of the scale is inertia. And inertia really means that we have this like paralysis of analysis, or maybe we have a fear attached to it, or possibly we just don't move very fast. And so maybe your inertia is that you kind of look at this and say, okay, we want to buy the software, but then you're doing all of this discovery, you're doing your own research, you're doing all these things, and months go by, maybe even a year goes by, and you still haven't made the purchase you know you need to make. We see this all the time in companies where we assign, hey, we say we want to do this, here's part of the vision, here's the goal, a part attached to that vision, and it becomes part of strategy, but then months go by, maybe even a year goes by, and there's no movement on it. And maybe it's because of that you're just overanalyzing things, or maybe you have a fear attached to it. If I make this, it'll be a big waste of money for the company. That's one side of our mind that can happen to us in our businesses and can hold us back. The other side is an interesting one that you might relate to, which is overtaxing. Overtaxing. So overtaxing is essentially that we're trying to do too much. So we have these two things, and we could be maybe trying to do too much, which we see very often. We say, hey, this is the vision. And we're like, hey, this year we want to get this, this, and this done. But then we don't realize the resources it takes, how much of people's time it takes, how much money it might take, how much just in general the steps to implement it might take. And we think that we can do all these things. And so we start to just do a little bit across the board on many different things, and we get very, very little movement. Now, the larger you get, the more complex this gets. The smaller you are, obviously, this can be a little bit more easy to overcome. You can just say, we just need to focus here, and we'll just attack that. So take a second and think about which side do our leaders in our business actually struggle with the most. Is it overtaxing? We try to overtax ourselves and do too much? Or is it inertia? We have the fear of moving forward. We are just overanalyzing things. What is it for you? Now, I want to give you at least a few pointers that will help you move past this. One of the first things that I can tell you moving past this is prioritizing. And essentially, one of the ways to really get past the overtaxing piece is to say, what can we focus on? And maybe it's just one thing this quarter, or maybe it's one thing this month. What can we focus on that's really going to move the needle? And then you have your team do different parts of that to help move that one thing to a new height, to a new level. And that could essentially be, we talked about, buying software earlier. Maybe you already bought the software. This is something that we see presently in a lot of companies is they buy the software because they know they need it, but yet they don't touch it for months. And they're like, wait, what? And then at the top, you're like, we bought this software. It cost us thousands and thousands of dollars, and you're not even touching it. You said you needed it. Business leader, business that running this section of our business, you said you really needed this. And so one way to get past the overtaxing piece is to focus very heavily on one thing, and maybe that's for 1 month or 1 quarter. And then you write down steps. We want to see by the end of 2 weeks, we want to see this result. By the end of 1 month, we want to see this result. And this helps you stay on track when you give yourself accountability. You meet with your team over that one thing, and maybe it's 10 minutes for every week, and you say, what did we get done? How did it go? What's the things that are holding us back? And you focus very heavily on that one thing. I guarantee that if you do this well, you're going to see traction faster than you ever did when you were trying to do so many things at one time. The other piece is inertia. So how do you move past inertia? I want to actually talk more about your mindset than I do anything that we can really do tangibly. And you have to get past this mindset that there's a perfect way of doing it, or that there's this one way that's really going to help us succeed in whatever we're trying to achieve. And so the thing that I would tell you, the best thing you can do for your team is meet together and talk about how you just want to see movement. We don't need, if we're struggling on what to purchase or what to buy in our business, whether that's a piece of equipment or a software or a new position, what I can tell you is you do need to prioritize, of course. But the next thing you need to do is you need to talk about how you're stuck in this analysis side of your business and you need to just make some movement. So it's about taking one step forward and just letting it be a moving target, if you will. So in the inertia side, it might be, hey, we've been wanting to hire this position forever, but we just can't pull the trigger because we're just overanalyzing if it's the right position, if it's what's needed. And so maybe the first step would be write that job description. Now it takes time, of course, but write that job description out and say, what does this person really do? Then look at your structure and say, okay, so in the next few weeks, we're going to look at our structure and say, if this person is in our business and we hire them because we think we need them, who else is doing these kind of functions that fall into this job description? Or if they do this, what's the first 90 days? What are they going to do in the first 90 days? Or what's the one big goal that we're going to have for them in the first year or 6 months of their employment? And when you do this, you're allowing yourself to move forward without making the decision, so that you can actually make the decision faster. So when you do these things, you might get to a point where you're like, okay, here's their job description. Here's their first big goal for the first 90 days or 6 months or 1 year. And then you say, what will this do for our business? And hopefully when you do this, it'll actually help you make a decision faster when you just have a moving target and you move towards chipping away at it. So these two things, inertia and overtaxing, are two things that I see that really hold businesses back. So hopefully this was helpful to you to see that these might be two things that you might need to move past. Take the advice, on the overtaxing. What is it that we can focus on just one thing and chip away at it as a team? If it's inertia, what's the things that we can do to start chipping away at it slowly so that we can make a decision faster? Hopefully this was helpful, and we'll see you on the next video.